Hello, hello. Welcome to I'm Not Crazy. Nicole's being inappropriate. Cameron Jones here, along with my co-host.
As he mentioned, Nicole, the inappropriate.
We're getting into a heavier subject, one of the big ones maybe for some conspiracies. I'm going to talk to us about crop circles today.
Oh, I thought that was the blimps that we were going to talk about today.
Nope, that's the next episode. Don't have the research ready.
Okay.
Where do you fall on crop circles? Do you believe in their mysterious possibilities? Do you think it's just people?
I think it could be a mysterious possibility.
Okay,
At
good.
first, I initially thought that it could be a people thing, like people just fucking with other people.
And many are.
Yeah.
Or advertising, as
right.
we'll see.
But I think it could be something.
Well, let's get into the definition here. They are defined as an area of standing crops that have been flattened in the form of a circle or more complex pattern. Mm-hmm. No definitive cause of crop circles has been identified, although various natural and unorthodox explanations have been put forward. Now, I'm not crazy, and I don't believe that every crop circle is an unknown phenomenon.
True.
But there are some strange things I found in my research that I believe there could be some mysterious crop circles that do
So
exist.
were you a believer initially or no?
Not really. I have heard of there are some famous videos that have popped up more recently of crop circles forming in real time instantly.
Right.
And that's kind of the kind we're going to be focusing on today.
Okay.
So there are, of course, the famous man-made crop circles that were formed by Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley. As far as like the big craze that everyone knows of like crop circles in like the 60s, 70s, 80s in England, these two guys have claimed it was them. So they sparked a cultural phenomenon around the subject in the 70s. But regardless of what you believe the origin, you likely associate crop circles in connection to UFOs and aliens, as this is the most common held belief. And if it is a hoax, it's how it all began anyway, based off kind of like an alien theory. In this episode, we will be looking into the history, hoaxes, and the possible meaning behind these mysterious formations. So put on your tinfoil caps, everyone.
Ready.
We're going to try to decode crop circles. Although formations have appeared worldwide from California to the rice paddies of Indonesia, southwest England is the world capital of crop circles. They are particularly concentrated in the county of Wiltshire, nestled between ancient historic sites such as Stonehenge and Avebury, both of which are crop circle hotspots.
Okay.
Reports of mysterious patterns appearing in wheat, barley, and cornfields in that area began to circulate in the 1970s, but it was in the late 80s that the phenomenon exploded. Circles began to appear more frequently and became more ornate. On average, 30 crop circles appear each year in the UK, and about 80% of them in Wiltshire, in that area just around these like ancient sites. The main focus of this podcast will be the crop circles from this area.
Okay.
We will touch on others, but these are what I believe to be kind of the more true crop circle phenomenon.
Okay.
As the number of crop circles has grown, so has the mythology surrounding them. Some bring forward the theory of ley lines, which we've talked about in a previous episode. Go back and see that.
Yeah.
They are mysterious seams of spiritual energy which interact at sacred sites. With this, the energy of the earth is creating these patterns for unknown natural phenomenon. Go back and see that episode. Others, of course, think UFOs or even the collective unconsciousness, something we will talk about in upcoming episodes. Though the source is unknown for true crop circles, there are unmistakable signs that can exclude some cases, which we will get into later. You might be wondering, why is this such a recent thing?
Why is this such a recent thing?
Thank you. Agricultural communities developed approximately 10,000 years ago when humans began to domesticate plants and animals. So if this was a natural phenomenon, shouldn't we have records of these appearing in ancient times?
True.
There are interesting stories and legends that do bear a resemblance to crop circle formations, but superstition and fear may have led to unclear and diluted depictions with time. So if they're scared, a witch did it. My crops are weird, probably the devil. So we have to maybe read between the lines a bit to see, could that have been a crop circle? As the crops are inevitably harvested or lost to time and covered with industrialization and civilization, there is an interesting theory that hypothesizes that ancient crop circles may have left signs after all.
Okay.
A crop circle formed very close to Stonehenge, bearing very similar geometry and patterns to the ancient structure itself, appeared very close to Stonehenge. Now, was this crop circle a homage to Stonehenge, or was it maybe just like a reoccurring natural phenomenon, a natural pattern that was happening? So this kind of asks, like, maybe these ancient structures that do have precise geometry were just being like stone structures being placed in like crop formations that the earth was naturally making. So that's kind of where this is coming from.
The earth was naturally making.
Yeah, so the theory goes that if this unknown phenomenon could have been witnessed by ancient peoples, the agricultural crop formations, could these monolithic sites just be the outlines of these natural occurring phenomenons?
I could see that.
People are just kind of placing this here and then building atop of it.
Yeah.
Giving their unexplainable precision in mathematics and astrology, it's believed that these stones are just marking these places. So what other records might have been left behind describing this phenomenon in the more recent past? Let's take a look at some folklore and stories for clues.
I love folklore. Take me back.
Let's go back. So this is going to go into kind of more the devil witchcraft theory of this. So researchers of crop circles have linked modern crop circles to old folklore tales to support the claim that they are not artificially produced. Crop circles are cultural dependent. They appear mostly in developed and secularized Western countries where people are receptive to New Age beliefs, including Japan, but they don't appear in other zones such as Muslim countries.
Interesting.
Right. Why does this seem to happen mostly in Western countries? Is there something significant with the earth that could cause their concentration in certain places? Fungi can cause certain areas of crops to die. Probably the origin of fairy rings and fairy circles, but not, what we're going into. There's also many tales of balls of light, but not necessarily in relation to crop circles. And we will find coming up that balls of light and glowing orbs are an important association with crop circles. A religious interpretation. This is maybe what some people believe is the first text in kind of more of a modern time describing this. A 1678 news pamphlet, The Mowing Devil, or Strange News out of Hertfordshire. Strange News out of Hertfordshire is claimed by some crop circle theorists to be the first depiction of a crop circle. The text sets out to prove that the reality of the devil with a cautionary tale in Hertfordshire. That's hard to say. A rich farmer, too mean to pay the wages of a laborer for mowing his oats, angrily said that the devil... You're fine. Said that the devil himself should mow his oats before the laborer should have anything to do with them.
Okay.
So supposedly God punished the greed with his greed and heartlessness. And that night the oat field seemed to be set afire with light.
Oh, so no one got to mow those oats.
An important depiction, though, that is in a lot of crop circle things we'll get to. That night, the oat field, when the farmer went to look at his oats, he found that a crop circle was cut down. As if the devil had a mind to show his skill, he cut them in round circles and placed every straw with that exactness that would have taken up above an age for any man to perform what he did in one night. So in other words, it happened very quickly, and it was very precise. And the man that owns them is as yet afraid to remove them. So he just doesn't know who did it. As with other jump to conclusions in the past, like witch trials and many other associations with the devil, could superstition and religion be explaining away and covering up a common occurrence in crop
100%.
Are we just blaming the devil for something that was happening a lot? And maybe we're just saying you're lazy, but really, it's just a natural occurrence.
Yeah.
This description of the formation being flattened in a very fast amount of time and flattened with precision in circles does sound familiar. We are once again seeing a ball of light, something I've mentioned. This will be coming up as we get on, but something to remember.
Ball of light.
So, preface. I apologize in advance. This next one is a Shawnee legend that I very quickly... it's an abridged version of something, so I don't want to pay disrespect to any culture, but here is a short version of the Shawnee legend of Red Hawk and the Celestial Sky Sisters.
Okay.
So this would be just a Native American folklore, possibly depicting crop circle formations and UFOs.
Okay.
So to greatly paraphrase, Red Hawk was a great hunter of the Shawnee people. One day, when he was on a hunt, he heard strange music coming from far away. He followed the music through the forest until he reached a meadow. He couldn't locate the source of the sound, but he saw a flattened circle patch of grass without any paths leading to or from it. He wondered how this was possible and returned home perplexed. Wanting to find the source of this crop circle, Red Hawk returned to the meadow and slept at the spot, hoping to catch what had created it. In the morning, he awoke to the sound once again. Looking to the sky, he saw a round basket slowly descending to the circular spot in the field. When it landed, 12 women departed from the basket craft, holding hands and dancing to music, before returning to the basket and ascending to the heavens once again. Red Hawk took a fancy to the youngest of the 12 celestial sisters, vowing to meet this mysterious woman. Red Hawk stayed another night in hopes of meeting the woman in the flying basket. The next morning, he woke to the music in the basket once again. Being able to shapeshift, Red Hawk transformed into a possum and slowly began creeping towards the sisters. As he got closer, the sisters spotted him and became frightened, returning to the basket and lifting off. Seeing a family of field mice, Red Hawk decided that on the third day, he would transform into a mouse and hide amongst the family in the field. When the sisters returned on the third day, Red Hawk was able to scurry to their feet without being detected. As the sisters entered the basket to depart, Red Hawk shrugged off his animal skin, taking the youngest sister by the hand, asking her to stay with him. Looking into his eyes and overcome with love and warmth, she decided to stay with the brave hunter, following him to his home. They were married, and she lived with Red Hawk and his tribe, producing a child with Red Hawk. But eventually growing homesick, the youngest sister decided that she wanted to take her son to the home in the sky. In secret, she weaved a basket like the one that had brought her there. When Red Hawk was off on a hunt, the sisters and her child left from the same crop circle in the field where she had arrived. There are some crop circle investigators that take this Shawnee legend as a description of a crop circle formation, likely by a UFO and alien creation. Thoughts on the legend?
Crazy that she could weave a basket, go back up into the sky. Crazy that, crazy that this man is like
Shape-shifting?
Shape-shifting, practically a skinwalker at this point, I think.
I don't want to say that.
Well, you know.
So these may be some records of crop circles predating the craze of the late 20th century. So to the 20th century, maybe something a little more modern. In 1932, the archaeologist E.C. Kerwin observed 4 dark circles in a field at Stoughton Down near Chichester. Yeah. But could examine only one, a circle in which the barley was logged or beaten down while the interior area was very slightly mounded up.
Wait, repeat that?
I think it's making a cone. A circle in which the barley was lodged or beaten down while the interior circle of the circle was a slight
up?
mound. Yeah, so it's like a cone.
Okay.
This is a crop circle predating the 70s cultural phenomenon. In 1963, Patrick Moore described a crater in a potato field in Wiltshire that he considered was probably caused by an unknown meteoric body, so a meteor. In nearby wheat fields, there were several circular and elliptical areas where the wheat had been flattened. There was evidence of a spiral flattening. He thought they could be caused by air currents from the impact since they all led towards the crater. So he's just thinking some sort of hot air current creating circles in a field from a meteor.
Weird.
Yeah, but again, that
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure if his science checks there.
Yeah.
So during the 60s, there were many reports of UFO sightings and circular formations in swamp reeds near Tully, Queensland. So now we're going to Australia.
Okay.
So in Australia and Canada, on August 8th, 1967, 3 circles were found in a field in Dumal, Alberta, Canada. The Department of National Defense investigators concluded that it was artificial, but couldn't say who made them or how. The most famous case, though, is of the 1966 Tully saucer nest. So this is where the whole UFO thing comes from.
Okay.
When a farmer said he witnessed a saucer-shaped craft rise 30 or 40 feet from a swamp and then fly away. On investigation, he found...
This is still in Australia?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're in Tully. In an investigation, he found a nearly circular area of 32 by 25 feet where the grass had been flattened in clockwise curves to water level within the circle. So it's our first classic crop circle. The local police officer, Royal Australian Air Force, and the University of Queensland concluded that it was most probably caused by natural causes, like a down drought, a willy willy dust devil or water spout. Willy willy is apparently dust devil.
Okay.
So they're just saying these circles are again unknown natural phenomenon, or they don't know.
Yeah.
This last one is significant, though, because it is noted as the origin of crop circles and what kind of started the craze in the 21st century. This event was the explosion of crop circles to come and possibly the inspiration for hoaxers to kind of make it into an alien thing. So now let's talk about the hoaxers. Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley. In 1991, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley of Southampton, England, confessed to having made more than 200 crop circles since the late 1970s.
Overnight?
Yep,
Okay.
in one night.
2 guys.
With nothing more than ropes and boards. Yep, 2 guys. They'd initially been inspired by the 1966 account of the UFO sightings near Tully, Queensland, in Australia that we just talked about, in which the flying saucer supposedly landed in a lagoon and left behind circular depressions of reeds. A bit of pranksters, as well as intrigued by the challenge, the two wondered if they would be able to create a crop circle, or UFO nest as they were known at the time, in one night. And according to them, they did, in a wheat field in Wiltshire, England in 1976. So as media attention grew on the subject, so did the size and complexity of their designs, something we will talk about later, but they have gotten very complex from their circular starts.
Okay.
They're not the only people known for creating complex crop circles, but they have admitted to creating the most in the area and are credited for the rise of the popularity and kind of like the godfathers of the whole thing. Some people have called into question whether these two men have created every circle that they've claimed, because some of these crop circles have very complex mathematical patterns, and they seem above the skills of these ordinary men. As to why they continued after the first prank and went on for so many, they stated, "We wanted to make the UFO Society think a UFO had landed. After a few years, they didn't know whether to believe it or not."
That was good.
That's it. So these guys claim...
No, your accent was really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So these guys claim to have been trolling ufologists for decades with cheese rolls and beer in the dark by themselves. That's what they claim they've been doing.
Christ.
I do believe these tricksters can create crop circles, and have maybe created a lot, but I don't believe...
I don't think it would just be two men, though.
No, they're taking credit for... I think they're just trying to take credit for a big thing. Maybe they can do a little, but I don't think they're maybe as big as they're saying.
Right.
I don't think they're a smokescreen or psyop or anything like that. I just think they're just attention seekers, essentially, is where I'm putting these guys. So what are other possible causes for true crop circles, you might wonder?
Yeah.
So what differs in true crop circles, you might be asking?
What differs in true crop circles, I am asking?
The bending of the stalks is the most crucial piece of evidence to look at. When true crop circles are made, when crop circles are made with a board, it will pinch or bend the stalk nearly at a 90-degree angle.
Okay.
To the point that it can break the stalk. In unexplained crop circles, the stalks will show signs of elongation and in some cases blowout or a burst in the stalk from high pressure.
A burst?
Likely steam escaping from the plant.
Oh, okay.
There are different levels of anomalies detected in these places, including magnetic, gravitational, microwave, and more, in what is called a thermodynamically unstable situation, where multiple energy...
Wait, so people go to these quote-unquote crop circles and test for radiation, magnetic...
There are ufologists, there are scientists who are dedicated to the crop circles, and they take measurements. They are, from mathematical to to chemical to electromagnet. There are people who have been dedicated to this for years and breaking this down.
Okay.
So... what did they call in what is called a thermodynamically unstable situation where multiple energies are expelled in an area unpredictably. So it can just be one of many things.
Yeah.
It could be one of these or all three or some variation. It's hard to say. There's also trends of other high strangeness accounts and more frequency near and when these formations are made. There are mostly different manifestations of cryptid creatures and UFO sightings, but one third anomaly deserves a bit more attention, probably the most: glowing orbs of light.
Okay.
And just real quick, Bigfoot is spotted a lot around crop circle formations.
Please revert back to episode 1 if you want to learn more about Bigfoot.
A lot of people think he's an alien. Clearly the UFOs, because that fits into many of the theories, but this orb thing is going to be important.
Okay.
So with crop circle formations around the world, there have been sightings and video proof of floating orbs near, in, and even forming crop circles. In the most concentrated geographic locations for circles formations, Wiltshire, near Stonehenge, stories of floating orbs have been around for centuries, with a hillside in the area named Floor of the Floating Balls. It's like Fire Hill or Float. I kind of forgot. I was trying to find it in the documentary and I lost it. For a brief description, these balls of light are mostly ember in color or white and are about the size of a glowing basketball.
I've seen videos of the white orbs, and then the time lapse that you were talking about,
of the corn flattening.
Yeah.
So they can ascend and descend and move in all directions under an unknown power source. They move independently and seemingly with conscious control of some sort, which has sparked a debate to their origin. People are unsure if it is some sort of unknown natural phenomenon or something sent from an outside source such as an alien probe. Whatever the source, these balls of light seem to have direct connection, if not causation, for these crop circle formations. So what are some other explanations for these mysterious formations and explosions of energy? Aliens. Alien
Isn't that what Never mind. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're not going to beat around the bush and get straight to the most popular one in the zeitgeist. The beginning of crop circle craze was referred to as UFO nests, with UFO sightings accompanying these strange formations. So going from the hoax standpoint, their entire motivation was based off this story and aimed to trick UFO investigators anyway. So there are still flares of UFO sightings near crop circle formations today. But are we seeing the beginnings of how these are formed, or merely alien observers appreciating a natural creation as well? Are they showing up to see it? Or are they showing up to cause it,
Cause it.
Because of the heavy mathematics involved and the ability to express a message through the universal language of math, it is believed that these circles are created by a more advanced-based life form, or carbon-based, or multidimensional, whatever you want, in order to send us some sort of message. Many believe they contain knowledge of better advanced societies, while some think that they could contain warnings about coming calamities or, climate and stuff. These balls of light are sometimes associated with the alien hypothesis, whether they're living beings themselves or just plasma probes or vehicles of some sort. But because of the frequency that they are seen, these balls of light are wrapped into most hypotheses. Usually it's kind of explained into any of them anyway. Weather. It has been suggested, and including in the start of this with our whirlwinds or our tilly-willies or whatever they were called.
Yeah.
It has been suggested that crop circles may be the result of extraordinary meteorological, it's so hard for me to say, meteorological phenomenon ranging from freak tornadoes to ball lightning. But there's no evidence of any, yes?
Nothing.
No, yes, please.
No, I was going to say weather seems like the least believable to me.
I would agree, kind of. I mean, unless it's, this will bleed into the just unknown natural phenomenon, which that I can see.
Okay.
But there is no evidence of crop circles being created by any of these causes. The ball lightning may also be mistaken identification for these floating balls of orbs, possibly, so that could be a connection. Or ball lightning makes crop circles? I don't fucking know. We don't seem to know a lot about ball lightning anyway.
Yeah.
So in the 1880s, an amateur scientist, John Rand Capron, wrote a letter to the editorial of the journal Nature about some circles in crops and blamed them on a recent storm, saying their shape was suggested of a cyclonic wind action. So this is just another people are saying maybe it's tornado cyclones. Yeah, I have a bunch here, and it's a bunch of people talking about air.
Yeah, I just weather to me seems the least believable, especially if people are going out and testing and seeing these reads, the buckwheat.
It is seeming like there's weird energy being released here. So as circles became more complex, people had created increasingly complex theories blaming electromagnetism, hydrodynamic, plasma vortexes. So this is kind of getting to maybe just some more unknown science.
Yeah.
This is my least likely one. Animal activity. In 2009, the Attorney General for the island state of Tasmania stated that the Australian wallabies had been found creating crop circles in fields of opium poppies, which were grown legally for medical use. So essentially, these wallabies are consuming opium and then running in circles, getting high and passing out.
Great.
But that's a little different. There's clearly them stampeding and trampling down crops in a circle. So this one's interesting.
Okay.
Magnetism. In 2000, Colin Andrews, who had researched crop circles for 17 years, stated that while he believed 80% were man-made, he believed the remaining circles with less elaborate designs could be explained by a 3-degree shift in the Earth's magnetic field that creates a current that electrocutes the crops, causing them to flatten and form a circle.
Okay.
But Colin Andrews, a former local government engineer who is now funded by one of America's richest men, Lawrence Rockefeller, of the Rockefellers, also acknowledges that at least 80% of the geometric designs that plague farmers and delight tourists are the work of rather simpler forces involving lawn rollers and string and the boards.
Yeah.
That is to say, human hoax. So Mr. Andrews is being paid to trace the cause of the geometric designs and reckons that fluctuations in the Earth's natural magnetic forces lead to the crops being electrocuted so that they collapse. So Mr. Andrews has built up a database of more than 10,000 crop circle observations around the world.
Okay.
And hired private detectives to track down hoaxers that led to his 80% figure. So he was able to deduce that 80% were fake. Although the figure could be higher, since the past circle watchers have been fooled into thinking that formations were produced by, natural phenomena and aliens, so it's hard to say. But Mr. Andrews insists that the other 20% remain quite another thing. This is the real natural ones we're talking. Okay. And I think the Earth's magnetic field is directly involved, he says. What I'm working with is simply the facts. We are measuring a difference in the magnetic field. I think we have a really significant breakthrough here. And what's also interesting about this magnetic theory is that often around these like 20% true ones, little balls of magnetic metals will be found around the base of these stocks. And scientists are saying that the only way they could be formed in such perfect spheres would be if they were to be heated to like a molten level, drawn towards the plant, and then super cooling on contact. So they're saying that there seems to be some weird high energy that's heating up the plant, causing it to elongate. In a lot of cases, there's blowout where steam escapes, they just collapse over, and then magnetic material will form into tight little balls around the stock.
So that's why they think, okay.
So some sort of electromagnetism.
Okay.
Unknown natural phenomenon. This is placing the glowing orb spotted at crop circle formations as the causation and thought to be an unknown natural formation like ball, or unknown natural phenomenon like ball lightning.
Okay.
So just something of the Earth we don't understand yet. For some reason, a high-energy plasma builds in the ionosphere. It begins to descend and is drawn towards certain crop fields. Almost all heavy crop circle formations have underwater aquifers. This is kind of important. So there's usually some sort of water source flowing, or just a natural aquifer underneath many of these, or are composed of conductive soil materials, or have a conductive material under the soil layer. Okay. These sites often have power anomalies as well, such as electromagnetic, gravitation, and gravitational. It is also theorized that these crop circle formations are drawn to ley lines or powerful energy points on the Earth. So for some reason, these balls of plasma are forming in the ionosphere and then kind of being drawn just to like highly conductive or energy spots on the Earth where these crop fields are. When the plasma lands, it pulses erratically, releasing microwaves. These microwaves superheat the plants, causing steam to build up and stretch the stalks, occasionally causing the blowout, this would also cause the magnetism, and bending the plant.
But how would this cause like the intricate like designs though?
That I'm a little less sure of. Measurements,
because I could see like circle, great, or like one shape, but not like multiple shapes.
Yeah, that is the confusing thing. So measurements have been taken from the center of crop circles using the Beer-Lambert principle, which states there's a linear relationship between the concentration and absorption of a solution, which enables the concentration of a solution to be calculated by measuring its absorbance. In other words, the strength of absorption of materials has correlation to where the thing was, essentially.
Yeah.
But I think that's also a little bit how they were doing with patterns, where it seems like as this expanded, like it's... The energy wasn't always the same in same areas, you know what I mean? Like as it went further out, in some areas it was still a higher concentration of energy.
It still doesn't answer the question of how it would make such
the formations.
Yeah, the interesting
that I don't
shapes.
know yet. And there were correlations in different crops with high energy sources at the center, disputing levels that further out depend on the design. So essentially, what I was saying, like they're doing measurements and they are finding there's a source in the center, but it's not necessarily dissipating out properly. It seems to be having these higher energies in different areas as well, and releasing in different areas. If this is just nature and an unknown phenomenon, you may wonder, why is it displaying itself in such elaborate patterns? For that, we will need to take a look at sacred geometry.
Okay, I love geometry. Lay it on me.
Well, perfect. I just lost my spot.
Perfect.
Well, first we're going to talk about spirituality to kind of break into... Well, so we're talking about sacred geometry, so spirituality.
Okay.
Many circles today have stunning and complicated patterns that would need the understanding of geometry to accomplish such accurate patterns. What is interesting is that they have seemed to be evolutions of shapes and complexity over time, as well as a similarity to the evolution of sacred geometric shapes. So the golden ratio. The golden ratio, also known as the golden number, golden proportion, or the divine proportion, is a ratio between two numbers that equals approximately 1.618. Usually written as the Greek letters pi, it is strongly associated with the Fibonacci sequence, a series of numbers whereas each number is added to the last. In mathematics, two quantities are the golden ratio if their ratio is the same as the ratio of their sum to the larger of the two quantities. So that's confusing. But I bring up these terms, golden ratio and sacred geometry, because both of these principles are used to create these true crop circles. What is sacred geometry? Sacred geometry is essentially the study of the spiritual meaning of various shapes. It can be applied to the forms, numbers, and patterns seen throughout the natural world. The spiral of a snail shell, the pattern of a single snowflake, and the branches of a tree can all have examples of sacred geometry. Sacred geometry ascribes symbolic and sacred meaning to a certain geometric shape and certain geometric proportions. It is associated with the belief of a divine creator of the universe of geometry, or geometer. I don't like that word. The geometry used in the design and construction of everything. These geometric shapes and connections can be made and seen throughout all the natural world. The periodic table associates geometric shapes to the elements.
Yep.
Molecular geometry, also known as the molecular structure, is a three-dimensional structure or arrangement of atoms in a molecule. Understanding the molecule structure of a compound can help determine the polarity, reactivity, phase of matter, color, magnetism, as well as the biological activity. So shape is important in the natural world. The idea being that everything is constructed out of geometric shapes, down to the tiniest particle, and built off of each other to build everything, essentially. Progression of shapes. So again, it's just people saying maybe this communication is through geometry, maybe it's through numbers. That's why it's so exact.
Everything's through numbers.
Yeah, that this is kind of bleeding into there's greater, deeper messages meant to be with these patterns that we need to mathematically break down.
Yeah.
So the progression of shapes. An interesting thing about this phenomenon is that the complexity of the designs has grown in difficulty as the years have gone on. Easy to explain if it's a man-made hoax, but if it is a progression of messages, what are they meant to convey? And if it's a natural phenomenon, why are they becoming more complex?
Yeah.
Almost in decade increments, crop circles have changed in design type and complexity of those designs over time. Beginning in the 60s, we had the classic circle.
Right.
Plain circles maybe building off each other.
Yeah.
The circles started to grow in size and number before we moved into the linear stage. These were the stack crop circles, maybe with the line in between them. We're getting closer to almost the
That's what I think of when
me too. That's kind of mine.
Yeah.
Next came the insectograms. These were linear crop circle formations with branches or appendages coming off. It is the one that's depicted in the movie Signs, the insectogram one, kind of. So that's the classic one. So the linear one is just circles in a line.
Yeah.
We had the age of the curly man, which resembled stick figures drawing the crop. They were just kind of stick figures for a while.
Never seen those.
I've seen a few. It looks more complex than just that. But
okay.
Next, we had scorpions, which resembled many like bugs and like centipedes, and kind of more of a spiraling one that we saw. Finally, we had fractals. These ones are interesting. They're complex, just square and diamond patterns with intercrossing crop lay so that you can have like shading, essentially. It's just...
Oh, I know which ones you're talking about. Okay.
It's just very complex fractals. They're interesting. That's kind of the stage we're at now. On top of the progression of their design, there's also been a pattern notice in their appearance. They tend to appear in threes, adding in complexity as they go. So 1 circle, 2 circle, 3 circle is an example.
Everything comes in threes.
Yes, it does. These patterns do not always appear geographically close, though, sometimes in different parts of the world, but with the same progression. For instance, one might appear, like we might have 1 circle in England, then all of a sudden, at the same time, we had a 2 circle in like a rice paddy somewhere, but similar design, always showing up in threes, it seems. Multi-dimensional beings. The last possible explanation are multidimensional beings, with crop circles being the shadow or traces left behind by their passing or them interacting with our world. It is believed that multidimensional beings, fourth dimensional, fifth, so on, exist simultaneously all around us, but we are unable to perceive them. How could this be? To put it in perspective, it would be like trying to explain 3D to a 2D drawing. If you look at a 2D drawing flat on a table, you will see the whole picture. If you turn it on the side, you just see a thin line and everything disappears.
Yep.
Another analogy would be like trying to look through a keyhole. You might be able to see fragments of like light coming through, but you'll never be able to put the whole picture together. The same thing could be true with higher dimensions. There could be 1, 2, and third dimensional elements that we're able to detect, but others that are unperceivable to us, so where the whole picture is being missed. The energies emitted by these entities could be detectable through the mathematical designs that they leave behind, and more about them could be understood with a greater understanding of mathematics and sacred geometry. So this was also described in an interesting way where, so the patterns on crop circles and their progression, it could almost be described like, okay, so the piece of paper, let's say moving on to the fourth dimension, I have a pencil and I'm passing it through like my hand here, through my two fingers. You would only be seeing, for us in the third dimension, a sliver at a time. So it'd almost be like 2D again, where it's flat. So they were kind of describing like if they pushed a pencil through like a cornfield, like you would get an octagonal position from like it passing through this way.
Right.
If you turn it like this way, it goes through at an angle, it starts making different shapes. So they're kind of saying, what if multidimensional beings are just passing through in different progressions, facing different ways, and they're just leaving different mathematical fractals, proportions, things as they go through.
Interesting.
Why would it be progressing? That I don't know. But those are pretty much the main theories. Where do you land on this? Which ones seem interesting to you? Are there combinations?
The mathematical one seems pretty interesting.
No matter what, mathematics is
I feel
involved.
like math. I think math is highly involved. I think that one, the unnatural or like the nature thing, not really believable.
As far as weather, no, but like something with like a ball lightning, the plasma, maybe just like an actual weird thing of the earth where it makes math sometimes. It's all sacred geometry. It's just kind of like shape.
Yeah, but the natural thing is just like kind of.
Do you think it's a message, or do you think it's just like a natural formation?
I'd like to believe it's a message.
I think it could be too. Or
I'd like to believe it's a message and it's left there for us to solve.
If not a direct message, maybe at least like a trace of something. Maybe just like a clue, a trace of something. Maybe it is. I want to show you that clip of someone describing the multidimensional theory, because that leads into shapes and mathematics, kind of in the whole thing. Anyway, that's kind of where I lead. But maybe not necessarily aliens, but possibly a consciousness, possibly a thing. Well, that was kind of
the way that you were describing that, like the pencil going through something. It just makes me think of a puzzle.
Kind of, which, yeah.
That's like essentially what I think of. Is just like it's a puzzle.
I do think there's something to be read out of this. We need to learn math.
It's a puzzle, and it's something that we need to crack.
Well, go back and look at our episodes for sacred geometry and ley lines for more foundation. But this was
sacred geometry is just really interesting.
I wish I could describe it and understand it more, but it is so confusing to me.
It is really interesting.
Well, this was a light look at crop circles. Thanks for joining in here on I'm Not Crazy. If you like what you heard, make sure you like and subscribe to the entire Majestic Jam Network.
Yeah.
Urban Hermit, the Cult Classics Podcast, the Highwire Podcast. And until then, we'll check you on the next one.
Boy.
Don't worry. We believe you.
Do we?